Well, hello and welcome to Moneycontrol. You have tuned into IPO Watch, and today we're going to be talking about Mamaearth's parent Honasa Consumer, which is set to launch its initial public offering on October 31st. The company has set a price band of around 308 to 324 per share. According to the RHP, Mamaearth plans to issue of fresh shares worth around 365 crore along with an OFS too. But to know more about the company's strategy in terms of moat, in terms of the path to profitability, we're being joined by Mr. Varun Alagh, the Chairman and the Chief Executive Officer, and Ghazal Alagh, Chief Innovation Officer. Thank you for taking out the time and joining us ahead of your meet. Appreciate your time. But let's get started with the basics first. The company started with the idea of selling a baby care product and now has turned into a complete full brand personal care brand. What's next for the company now?
So very rightly said. I think we started our journey 7 years back. Honasa Consumer is a company which started as just one brand company, which was Mamaearth, but now it's a house of brands, and we have 6 brands in our portfolio. Mamaearth started as a baby first company, but after receiving a lot of consumer insights and talking to our consumers, we understood that they were the ones who said, why just limit Mamaearth to baby? Why not the entire beauty and personal care category? And that's how that brand expanded. And over the last 7 years, I think, again, listening to them, talking to them, and we have technology tools which helps us interact with our consumers on a daily basis. What we also understood that there were a lot more propositions that they were looking for. And while a lot of companies and brands were selling to India, there were not as many who were crafting for India. And that was the place which Honasa Consumer wanted to take. We are a company which crafts brands and products for India, keeping their skin and weather in mind. We came up with our second brand, the Dermaco, which is a brand based on active ingredients for skin concerns like acne and pigmentation. And in just 3 years, it is a 300 crore ARR brand now. We also launched Aqualogica, which is a brand based on deep hydration. In a little over 18 months, the brand has already achieved an ARR of 150 crores. We also acquired Dr. Sheth and B Blunt, which continue to grow very strongly. So yeah, Honasa and us, that's what we have done and we have built in the last 7 years.
Sure, Ghazal, that's pretty much what we could pick up from the RHP. But my limited question to you is, what's next for the company?
I think going forward as well, we are a company which is, like I said, our focus will continue to be consumers. We are going to provide them the right kind of options through products and brands, and we'll continue to craft for them. And one metric that the company is going to chase aggressively is consumer love.
All right. Let's also talk about the fundraising typically, which is going to be spending in. Much of your funds are going to be directed towards the advertisement expenses, towards enhancing the awareness and the visibility of the brand put together. As of 2022, market share was around 1.5% of the total Indian beauty and personal care market. How intense is the competition within the space? What's your strategy to cut across? What's the moat for your business? Could you put that in perspective?
I think firstly, what I would like to say is that we are in the business of building brands. And when you're building brands, you need to drive awareness for what the brand stands for, what kind of products the brand sort of makes, and to get consumers to try those products. And once they try them, they actually then continue to use them. And that we have seen in success of Mamaearth, right? From 0 to 1,000 crores in revenue in just 6 years, right, is something that no other brand in BPC ecosystem has been able to achieve, and we've been able to deliver that. Right? And that has given confidence, right, for us to do it on other brands as well, and which is where we are going to build those brands as well by investing in the right kind of mediums and letting the right kind of consumers know about what those brands stand for and what all products that they do. And that's where we believe that once you create the brand, and for a very long term, and that's how consumer companies have been built, and you continue to see strong growths and momentum on those brands. So I think that's how the business is shaped, and that's where we would choose to invest. And I think being able to take share in this highly competitive market, and being able to grow much faster than what the industry is growing, is testimony of the fact that the capabilities, skills, and the team that we have built is equipped to actually capture share of this fastest growing BPC market that we are in, and we'll continue to focus to doing that.
Sure. Varun, let's talk about your revenue CAGR. In that case, what you've done in the last 3 years is around 80%, if I'm not wrong. I'd want to understand how sustainable is that 80% rate going forward in the next 3 years, if you could put a number to it, and what are going to be the growth drivers for that scalability?
Yeah. I think the growth drivers of the scalability are one, expansion of distribution footprint. We clearly realize that our consumers are now looking to buy our products in offline stores, and that's something that we've been focusing on. We are there in about 100,000 stores now, but we believe there is a lot more of expansion that can be done. The growth is also going to come from the younger brands, which are young, 2 to 3 years old, but are growing very fast. Like Ghazal said, we've already seen a Dermaco reaching the 100 crore and 300 crore mark faster than what Mamaearth reached, and Aqualogica has actually done it even faster than Dermaco, and so we are getting better at even scaling other brands, and hence we expect those brands to sort of grow and add to growth. And I think the third growth driver is going to be recognizing newer innovation needs in consumer spaces, and being able to innovate and provide products in that. And as Honasa, we believe we aspire to and will continue to deliver better growth than at the levels that the market is growing.
So we will continue to grow better than what the market has been growing. That is fine. But how about your past performance? Do you think you'll be able to outdo your own past performance that you've done in the last 3 years?
I think looking at our past performance is a great indicator of what we could deliver in future. That's the more important thing to look at is the capabilities that we have demonstrated. And in a competitive market, being able to not only build one sizable brand, but being able to build 2 more sizable brands, being able to acquire a small brand like Dr. Sheth and being able to grow that 20x in 1 year, and are capabilities that we have demonstrated. And we'll continue to use those capabilities to grow fast.
So are you saying that the 80% rate is deliverable?
No, I'm not saying that.
So the pace is expected to be faster, slower? How are you looking at it? How sustainable is the momentum?
So this momentum of gaining share in this market is sustainable, and will continue to gain share.
Which I'm looking at, 80%. That's exactly my question. That do you think you'd be able to do that? And you're saying it's sustainable at 80%, right?
No, I'm not saying that, Nikki. I'm saying that.
Okay, so then let's change the question for you, Varun. Let's ask, if that's not the figure that you're giving, that's not the guidance that you're looking at, let's look at how scalable are you organically versus inorganically. How do you intend to grow forward? Ghazal, you could take that up too.
I think what we've demonstrated in the past through our performance is the fact that we have the capability to build strong brands for India. We have done that through now 3 organic brands that we have built and scaled, and I think that's one of the strengths. Inorganic, we did try. We have proven our capabilities to even scale there. While we, like Varun said, we acquired them at a very small scale, we have been able to use our same playbooks that we have used on building our brands to scale them really fast. And those are the capabilities that we are going to focus on even in future. And that is what is going to help us deliver, market-beating growths.
Sure. I do understand that you guys are talking about enough and more in terms of what you've done in the past. The market is aware of your RHP. They've read through your RHP. They've been wanting to know more about your business. So my only understanding while interviewing is to get the facts. What do you plan to do next? Would you expand organically? Would you expand inorganically? We are going to be talking about your inorganic expansion also in just a bit. But going forward, if the rate that you're looking at to grow up, perhaps even outperform the market, where is the growth going to be coming in? Are you going to be focusing more on your internal ways, or you're going to go across and probably you've lined up some of the other companies that you can acquire and get the growth from? Thus far, it seems like an inorganic growth expansion.
So I would like to correct you, Nikki. It is not an inorganic growth in the past as well. And all the past growth, 90% plus of the growth is actually organic growth. And even the companies that we have acquired, like Ghazal rightly said, we acquired them at much smaller scale, but we've been able to grow them organically then very fast. And I don't think that will be considered as inorganic growth. That will be considered as organic growth, because that's not adding inorganic revenue to your that is adding a brand mix and then growing it strongly, and that is going to be the strategy in future as well. And we're going to focus on growing the business organically. And that said, we will continue to look out for opportunities, tactical opportunities or strategic opportunities, where we can see our ability to grow a mix much faster than what it is currently growing, and evaluate it on and off. But our focus is going to be organic growth.
Okay, Varun, just to expand on that little point that you made, point well taken, but just in fact that you said that you probably will continue the strategy of acquiring in small players, then putting in your expertise and growing them to become a brand that they are. Okay, so it is an inorganic expansion which you're essentially having, doing your hard work and getting them on the levels that they're expected to look at. Do you have any more prospects in your mind with that targets? Are you working with any kind of targets with that?
No, nothing at this point of time.
Okay, all right. Let's also understand about your other brands in that case, because you have taken in an impairment on goodwill of the most expensive acquisition, that's Mamaearth, which I'm sure most of the community across in the market is been talking about. What's the road ahead for that? Why is this valuation, why the business operation of the inorganic growth that you've taken has to be scaled down? What's the road ahead? Do you think there is going to be an impairment of goodwill which will continue in this year? If you could provide in more light, it will be really nice.
Sure. So, Nikki rightly said, we have done 3 acquisitions, Dr. Sheth, B Blunt and Mamaearth. Dr. Sheth, like I said, has grown 20 times in about an year that we acquired. B Blunt is also growing very strongly. But we also did another acquisition which was so to say a non-core acquisition, which was in the services space, which is Mamaearth. We had a certain vision on how it will be able to add efficiencies through content to commerce funnel in our business. We tried integrating and figuring some of those pieces out over the 4 quarters that we worked on that acquisition. But after working on it and spending a fair bit of management bandwidth, we realized that we don't see it to be able to create the value that it was supposed to create in the longer term. And it was also turning out to be a bleed on our overall P&L. And it was taking a fair bit of management bandwidth. So in fact, end of last financial year, we have taken a decision to shut that part down. And that has led to a one-time exceptional impairment in FY23, which is not a part of our core business expenses, but it's a one-time expense. And we don't expect to see that impairment on Mamaearth any forward, because we have actually shut the business down.
So you expect to turn around and be profitable in this year onwards, right?
Actually, if you look at Q1, we already are profitable. We have generated 6% EBITDA, and we have generated close to 30 crores in EBITDA. We have generated almost 23 to 24 crores in PAT. And so if you look at that number, we are already there.
All right, that's pretty much the takeaway there. But let's talk, since you have spoken about your EBITDA margins and the operational performance, we can also talk about advertising expenses, right? Which seems to be higher than the industry leader HUL. What explains that? What can be looked forward into? How do you intend to optimize the operational expenses going forward? Also, I'm going to be talking about your employee expenses here to add to the mix, which also seems to be 109% growth in the last financial year. So what's your strategy both on managing your advertising expenses as well as your employee expenses?
I think on advertising expenses, what I would say, like I said, and I think it needs to be seen on two fronts. One, when you compare advertising expense, you should also compare growths. And we are investing to grow faster and gain share, and we've demonstrated that in the growth that we've achieved. And as well as the other thing that needs to be seen is during the same time, we have not only built one brand, and that one brand has scaled. It is actually showing far more efficiencies. But during that same time, in the last 2 years, we have actually chosen to invest and build four more brands. And where the investment, because in early stages of brand building, is higher. And so the net amount that you see is actually sum of parts. Right? Where there is one brand which is actually showing a lot of efficiencies, but there are other younger brands which are still in invest mode, and which is where the organization's A&P is. Right? But even at an organization A&P level, as we are scaling, we are clearly seeing leverage kicking in. Right? From 40% levels, it's already gone down to 35% levels. Right? And we believe that as brands scale up, and these leverage will continue. And even on younger brands, and from 80% in FY23, we're seeing them to be at 46% in FY24 Q1. And so that efficiency is kicking in, and we believe that that will continue to sort of be the model that we will follow.
How about your employee expenses? So almost 109% increase there. The company effectively has 500 employees. How are you planning to deal with that? Do you intend to come down on the cost in any time soon, or you think this is just going to be a matter of expanding your revenues and not curtailing down your operating expenses?
Not really. There are two things which I would like to talk about. One, I think we were focusing in the last 2 years on expanding our offline presence. Right? And when you're a younger company, earlier entrant into offline, right? A lot of the on-foot execution sales force is something that you need to invest in, right? Because you can't get your distributors to invest in that, right? Given it's a younger business, right? And that's something which also leads to better execution in market because you have better control. So I think in the last 2 years, we have invested on building that sales force, right? But now we have a strong sales force and a strong business and hence as we grow further, and we do expect to see efficiencies there. And the second thing that I would say is last 2 years we were also strengthening our leadership team and putting down the right kind of organization structure and design, and which can serve this organization not just for next year, but from our next 5 to 7 years horizon, and which is where we have strengthened the leadership team and brought in the right leaders. But once they're there and they can take the business to grow, we do expect to see, and we are already seeing OPEX leverage kicking in as we see it already in this quarter.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. I'm just going to leave it at that, and all the best with the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having
Thank
us.
you.
All right, pleasure. Well, with this, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in.